if you're a product manager, your responsibility or your ownership was kind of delegated to you or was given to you from day one. Engineers, UX, UI designers, data scientists, they all expect that PMs would take the lead and filling this gap of, gather information, make a decision based on everybody's needs. That naturally pushed you to this leadership role. You have to take that position and go deliver things. As a startup founder, or before you even start your own startup, you were never given this ownership. You have to prove that you probably know a lot of different things and you have your own leverage to be a good leader. As a PM, one mindset you have to have is that you need to explain using a language that everybody can understand. And that language is no longer code, but visuals. Using visuals to explain things logically is very critical to this job. We might expect delays, so let's shoot for the moon. I kind of disagree with that. I feel like everybody has a clock in their own mind. If a project actually took such a long time to ship or even never got shipped, it's such a huge discouragement to the rest of the team, to engineers, to designers, to business, to everybody, to data scientists, because of the fact that when you are the center of this network, you feel like, okay, we're always busy, we're always trying to make a little progress, but to the people who are executing, they would feel like nothing exciting has been done by this team. Hey guys, this is Sean. I'm a product manager and an entrepreneur, and I used to be a data scientist at Google. So in this video, I'd like to share a little bit about my first 2 weeks to become a product manager after converting from a data scientist. And I would like to cover a little bit about what exactly is the difference between these two professions. And as a PM, what do you need to do exactly? And of course, I'm still in a learning process. This is an experience that I recorded after 2 weeks being in this position. So I'll make more videos in the future to record my new thoughts. So the biggest immediate difference is that you're not expected to write any code anymore, because the philosophy is that you need to leave the job to the people who are best doing at it, right? So you don't write any pieces of JavaScript for the front end, never write Java or Python for the back end. You maybe occasionally need to write SQL if you would like to understand a little bit about your data and then you want to fill in some metrics information for your decision making. I think most of the time, if a team is well equipped with a data science team, you should delegate this piece of work to the analytics team. That's the first thing. So no more coding. Don't even think about you need to write something for a product. But I wouldn't say you cannot do it. You can still apply for a bunch of access. You can still review the code base with your engineers, but it's just not part of your job. And on the other side, there seems to be a lot more elements regarding how do you explain yourself very, very clearly, and hopefully with a lot of visuals. So one thing that I realized is our PMs, my colleagues, they use a lot of Miro. They use Miro to explain everything, to explain the user flow, to explain a simple concept when you're just talking through things, maybe like when they were introducing the company to me. It's so natural for them to draw something. So as a data scientist, of course, you still need to draw something, especially when it comes to, okay, here are a few pieces of data and here's my plan on how I want to manipulate these data and combine them or do whatever analysis. But for a PM, drawing things means that you are able to think while you're illustrating with some sketching or using whatever tool that you feel comfortable about. And that's very, very important for communication, because imagine like me, when I was onboarding to my team, I have no idea what's going on. And whenever my PM lead or PM manager drew something for me, it became clear immediately. So as a PM, one mindset you have to have is that you need to explain using a language that everybody can understand. And that language is no longer code, but visuals. Using visuals to explain things logically is very critical to this job. The third thing that I heard a lot about is, can we have our point of view on something? Can we have some thoughts or vision for certain routes? So I'm currently working in retail, in merchandising, this area. What we are thinking about right now is, can we have a point of view about AI? Do we know what is perhaps the experience of retail and merchandising 10 years from now? given all the potential technological advancement as well as things like your competitors might be doing. So I realized that the tech team would expect, or at least hoping, that the product team would have this vision so that people will know, okay, where we're going, right? Because for a lot of the people that PMs are working with day to day, for example, engineers or designers, UX, they will participate in our discussions. They will talk to us about the vision. But most of the time, they are kind of like the judges. Because, first of all, they're the team who are going to execute, who are going to draw the Figma demo, who are going to write the JavaScript code, who are going to set up the backend foundation for you. So if they don't agree with what you have in mind, how can you expect them to perform at their best? How can you expect them to execute? So they are the judges to see if your leadership is worthy or not. Let's put it this way. So having a vision or having a point of view of your own is very important. And that leads to my next point, which is, can you talk like you have conviction? Can you be persuasive to people? So it's very, very common, based on my 2 weeks observation, to have an argument, which is great, which is positive. Having arguments is important because the gist of it is that you want the best for your customers. You want the best for your users. So it's better to have an internal argument first before the complaints came all the way from your users and basically your team is screwed. So we would have a lot of arguments. We would have a lot of discussions, some very smooth, some a little bit bumpy maybe, due to all sorts of reasons because of communication. So as the product lead, what I observed is that people usually talk in a very easy to understand manner, and then they talk with very clear points. What do we want? What exactly we're working on? Why we're doing this? What are the pros and cons? Why this is a decision given all the compromises? So you gotta sound very convincing, or you gotta at least believe in what you're doing, and then you can convince your team to actually execute. So conviction is very, very important in terms of communication, in terms of the efficiency of how the team runs. And there's another thing that I personally feel like it's important, but I need time to confirm that, which is when people say take your time. When people say, all right, here's the roadmap, it's going to take this many weeks, we might expect delays, so let's shoot for the moon. I kind of disagree with that. I feel like everybody has a clock in their own mind. If a project actually took such a long time to ship, or even never got shipped, never got delivered, it's such a huge discouragement to the rest of the team, to engineers, to designers, to business, to everybody, to data scientists, because of the fact that when you are the center of this network, you feel like, okay, we're always busy, we're always trying to make a little progress, but to the people who are executing, they would feel like nothing exciting has been done by this team. An engineer might be just kept waiting for the roadmap that PMs are constantly discussing with UX and business, and they might not have some very meaningful work to do simultaneously. And for the designers, it might feel like, okay, I have come up with so many great ideas and none of them got adopted or none of them actually got delivered. What are we doing, right? So at the center of all the information, which is the PM's position, it's very easy for us to get drowned in meetings and scheduling to a different time and, okay, let's postpone this to a next deadline. But I feel like we need to be very mindful about everybody's own little clock in their mind, because I've definitely heard complaints all the time, no matter what product team I'm in. When I was in Google, when I was at YouTube, or all sorts of teams, you can hear very different complaints from individual teams that are not PMs, that are kind of different from the PM teams, because the product teams, man, we have so many meetings from early morning till the end of the day, and then we still need to finish a bunch of work after that. So time didn't feel as empty as people who were doing very little things that they don't consider as meaningful. I personally feel like this is a very hard balance to keep. If you're a product manager, please let me know how you're dealing with this. But for me right now, I'm still trying to take some more time to digest and see what is the best way. Last but not least, I've always had this thought that PM of the team is basically the little CEO of a little startup that's embedded in a large corp. And a lot of people compare product managers to CEOs. I don't have an answer to yes or no to this statement, but I have a little bit of thought of myself. Again, it might change over time, but for now, I feel like there's some key differences between, being a product manager of a bigger product versus being a founder or a CEO of a little startup. Number one is risk. You don't bear the same level of risk. Startups could die immediately if your revenue or if your cash flow is dead. But if you're working a product team of a bigger organization, you probably don't have to worry too much about that unless, these days they might lay you off. So the level of pressure in terms of survival is completely different. And I have to say, if you don't experience that, you never will understand how different it is. So I have some friends who are building their own startups, and I can feel that the amount of pressure and stress that they're experiencing is at another level compared to myself right now being in the corp. The number two thing is I feel like if you're a product manager, your responsibility or your ownership was kind of delegated to you or was given to you from day one, which means that engineers, UX, UI, designers, data scientists, they all expect that PMs would take the lead and filling this gap of, collecting information, gathering information, make a decision based on everybody's needs. That naturally pushed you to this leadership role. You have to take that position and go deliver things. As a startup founder, or before you even start your own startup, you were never given this ownership. You were never given this delegated role. You have to prove that you probably know a lot of different things and you have your own leverage to be a good leader to build this product. Let's say you're really an education expert. You can build the best education app for kindergarten. You really love food and you have worked at DoorDash for a long time, so you will be the one to build the next best food delivery company. So these kind of things are sometimes what investors are looking for, which is why you, right? So I don't really see that from a product manager's perspective. And of course, if you want to break into product management and you gotta go through the interview, talk about your advantages and why you're best for this position, but you're not expected to build up this team from ground up and really win the team by influence from day one. You don't have to make the prototype yourself, whereas as a founder, you have to build a prototype yourself. You have to validate whether this business model is going to work or not, right? So if you see what I mean, if you summarize this is like a 1 to 100 problem versus a 0 to 1 problem, and the level of stress and pressure, the level of ownership and how you gain this ownership is very different. But at the end of the day, I still feel like the work you do is going to be similar. Okay, you need to organize designers, business, engineers, data scientists, sales, maybe growth to function as a team. So there are a lot of transferable skills that I can see, but they're not the same. So yeah, I feel like whichever route you might want to take, it's interesting to try the other one as well. It might give you some great insights about being a product lead. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. And as I promised, I will share more while I am more into this role. Feel free to subscribe and click the like button or follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter.